everybody here, and just want to say how wonderful it is to be invited here to share a message with these wonderful young people and with all of you today, and to say how great it is for Roseland and I to be in this beautiful city of Jackson Hole. We had a lot of fun last night at the concert. I think maybe some of you were here, and really appreciate you coming. And before I get into the meat of the message, I would like to say special thanks to a few people that certainly deserve it, beginning with Jim and Sarah Walter. And again, it's Jim's fault that I'm here today, that Roseland and I made it. We've worked together for 6 or 8 weeks on this, and really appreciate all of his efforts to get me here. They've been amazing hosts, and we really appreciate you guys. Also, I want to say a special thanks to John and Kitty Reeser for allowing us to stay at their beautiful cabin at the ranch that they have. Roseland and I have enjoyed that so much. We've been able to see some of the beautiful outdoors from those picture windows that are in the cabin there, and we've just really had a delightful time. We appreciate it. And I certainly want to say a special thanks to the faculty and staff here at the Jackson Community School. I enjoyed meeting some of them the other day when I toured the school. Scott, I met Nancy tonight. I want to say a special shout out to Nancy for the great work that she's done as a co-founder and as a chair of the school here. So thanks to all of you, and of course a very, very special congratulations to these fine young folks up here on the stage with me, Morgan and Sarah and Carmen and Cooper and JP. I enjoyed having lunch with them the other day. We shared some ideas and thoughts. We had a really invigorating conversation, and I know that they're just going to have an outstanding time in the future where they're going from here, and they've certainly learned a lot from here at the Jackson School. Well, and I want to say a special thanks to Morgan for the introduction, because I think we might need to get you a spot on the next Stones tour, Morgan. Mick Jagger never does it that nicely, I'll tell you. And as Morgan pointed out, my real job is that I'm a musician. I'd like to share a little story about how I came to be a musician with all of you. I learned to play by listening to my mother. My mother was not a professional or a teacher or anything, but she played for family enjoyment. And I was the baby of the family, you see. I had an older brother, older sister. And so oftentimes it was just me and Mom in the house. They would be out, at school when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. Dad out working, so Mom and I spent a lot of time together when I was at that very young, tender age. And I used to love to listen to her play. I'd go tug on her skirt and say, Mom, play me something on the piano. And she would oblige, and I was just fascinated. I loved watching her hands go up and down the keyboard, loved listening to the melodies and the harmonies and the rhythms that she would play. And oftentimes she would encourage me to sit at the stool with her, and she would show me a few little simple things, and sometimes encourage me all by myself, just sit there and say, well, Chuck, you make something up, and I'll listen to it as I go by. And she would sometimes stop and say, that was really nice, what was that? So she really encouraged me in that way, and we had a lot of fun when I was young doing this. Well, at the tender young age of about 7, you see, I had this epiphany that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I was having so much fun playing the piano, playing music. And so I was all excited about this. And I wanted to tell my mom. I went through the house shouting her name, Mom, Mom, Mom. Found her in the kitchen. And she said, Chuck, my goodness, you're all worked up. What's the matter, son? I said, Mom, I've made a big decision. She said, well, gosh, okay, take a deep breath, son. What's on your mind? I said, Mom, I've decided that I want to be a musician when I grow up. And I'll never forget, Mom looked down, smiled at me, and she said, honey, you can't do both. And of course, she was absolutely right. I'm still struggling with that phrase, responsible adult. I'm not sure what that means. But I'm having big fun. By the way, you guys know the difference between a musician and a municipal bond. A municipal bond, you see, eventually matures and makes money. JP, you take a note of this. Most of you know that JP has been one of the few people accepted at the Clive Davis School of Music at New York, at NYU, so we're very proud of you there. But you remember these things I'm saying up here, son. But all jokes aside, I've been really, truly blessed in my musical career, and very fortunate and very proud to have worked with a number of different artists that have meant so much to me, and to have this career. And I'm also very proud of all of you here today to come to this very, very important point in your careers and in your lives. And this is the theme I would like to bring to you today, and that is the theme of pride. You know, no matter what path you take in life, I think it's so important that you take that path with as much vim and vigor and dedication and honest determination that you have inside of you. And so let's take a little look at this word pride. What I'd like to do is break it apart into its respective letters and find some other words that we can use with these letters and relate it back to the word pride and have a little fun with it. Now we know that there's two different kinds of pride. There's a kind of pride that the Bible talks about, evil pride, selfish pride, foolish pride, and certainly we don't want to engage in that, and that's not the path that we want to take. But there's another kind of pride, a pride that comes from reaching your goals and for doing a job well done, just as these fine young graduates have at this juncture. And that's a healthy kind of pride. It's something that can help you along your path. And it makes you want to do more and to do better as well. So let's have some fun with this. Let's start with the letter P. I think a very important word, starting with P, that we need to realize relates back to the word pride is preparation. Some of you may have heard about the 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. And I think it's so true, because if we are prepared, whether we're taking a test or whether we're doing a concert or whether we're about to go into surgery as a doctor, or whatever our challenge may be, if we have prepared properly, then we're going to go in with confidence. We're going to go in feeling good that we know we can do this, and it's so important to prepare properly, you know, for whatever challenge that may come your way. I'd like to tell you a little story about preparation that relates to the Rolling Stones. Back in 1989, the Stones put on a tour and a record called Steel Wheels. The band had been somewhat inactive for several years and hadn't toured in some 7 years. And so this was kind of a point in time where we kind of rebirthed the Rolling Stones. And we began to rehearse after we had recorded the record. We realized that, boy, we better get it right this time. We can't go out there and fall on our faces. We had to really prepare hard. And we had this one particular meeting during the rehearsals that were going on when we were in Washington, Connecticut for about 2 months going through this process. And the meeting included, of course, all the principal members of the Rolling Stones, but it also had the production manager, it had the lighting director, and all of the musicians involved, and a lot of the staff, the back line, the people that work with us on the technical aspects of the tour. And so Mick began by saying, well, let's talk about the beginning of the show. And someone said, well, what do you mean? You mean like the first song we're going to play? And he said, no, I mean, let's talk about even before people walk into that stadium. What's the experience going to be? How can we make sure that, you know, the parking, the ingress is easy for them, and how they find where they're going inside the stadium? What kind of music is going to be playing outside the stadium? Once they get inside the stadium, where will the merchandise be so that they can easily access that? And how will we decorate it to make sure it looks good? And who's going to be the opening acts on the tour? Let's discuss that. And, you know, what is the stage going to be draped? What is it going to look like before we even start the show? And again, what music is going to be played as the people are finding their seats and going around. And I thought this was really fascinating that Mick had the insight to understand that that's all part of the experience. It's not just the music, it's not just delivering the songs, but it's all about the experience. And he wanted to prepare properly for the entire tour with this experience. And then, of course, we did engage in the rehearsals for the songs, going through some 150 songs to get to the ones that we were going to play from night to night. 2 months of working every day, long hours, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, working on these songs and working on the arrangements and working on the production and how Mick would use the production to his advantage to engage the crowd. So it was a fascinating experience for me, and I think it says a lot about the importance of preparation. And I can tell you that it did work very well. At the time, Steel Wheels was a record-breaking tour in many, many ways. And every tour since then, with have that sensibility of preparing, and it certainly has served us well. Now, there's another word I'd like to use with the letter P that I think is so important, and that is the word passion. I was fortunate to find my passion early on in life. It wasn't really at the age of 7, as I joked earlier, but by the time I was 13, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to pursue my career as a musician, but not everybody finds that passion at that young of an age. And the important thing to know is that whenever you do find it, to pursue it with every bit of determination and excitement and exuberance as you can, because you know that it becomes not work anymore when you have a passion for what you're doing. It becomes fun and engaging and helps you along the path of life.